Hello, this video tells a story in which ex-wife tried to run her husband with a car. Really crazy story. Enjoy your viewing.
My ex-wife tried to run me over with a car because she reconnected with her ex, but her mother kicked her out of the house. My ex-wife attempted to run me over when she got caught cheating, and she then struggled financially while my life improved. This is a lengthy tale, but I'll try to make it brief by breaking it into parts to provide a complete picture. My soon-to-be ex-wife, who we'll call Anna, and I got married in March 2018. At that time, I was 25 years old and Anna was 24. We had a private wedding, only our closest friends were aware. We both lived on campus at our university in San Francisco, having come from different counties where our families lived. From the start, our marriage was a toxic disaster. Anna was secretly texting her ex-boyfriend from high school, whom we'll call Tom. She claimed they were just friends now, but it didn't sit right with me since he was also her first love. I'm not one to invade someone's privacy, but I wanted to trust her. However, she would go out of her way to hide her phone screen from me, and whenever I touched her phone, she would become extremely defensive. Eventually, I figured out her passcode and checked her messages, but couldn't find any proof. Fast forward to April 2019, the pandemic hit, and everyone was forced to move back home. We were in a tricky situation since we still hadn't told our families, so we wore our rings in secret. Everything seemed okay until the first week of May 2019, when she suddenly said she wanted a divorce. My heart broke, and I cried, begging her to stay. I asked where I went wrong, or if I wasn't doing enough for her, but she simply said she didn't love me anymore, and that I wasn't the one for her. For about 9 days, I tried my best to save our marriage, practically begging her to reconsider, but she was extremely stubborn. By the end of that rough period, I accepted that she didn't want to be with me anymore. It was hard to come to terms with, but I realized we shouldn't drag this along any further. I only asked her to return the wedding rings I gave her. However, she refused, saying they were a gift and she had the right to keep them. Legally, she might have been right, but I didn't feel she deserved to keep them since we were no longer together. The rings were real, and I was on a payment plan for them for about 4 years with only 6 months paid off so far. We argued about this over the phone to the point where I hung up and cried in bed. My mother asked what was happening, and I confessed everything to her. She held me and told me everything would be okay. The next day, we went to Anna's home, confronted her mother, and told her the truth. This led to an argument between our mothers, with Anna still upstairs, refusing to see me but texting me, asking why I got our families involved. It was eventually agreed by our mothers that the rings would be given back to me, but on another day. A couple of days later, while at work, I got a call from Anna. She was crying, saying her mother was kicking her out because she got married in secret. She claimed she still loved me and wanted to give our marriage another try, agreeing to cut off Tom, and suggested we move in together as a married couple. Being the lovesick fool I was, I rushed out of work to meet her, and we immediately started looking for apartments in the area. I found us a fairly cheap apartment due to the pandemic, with a move-in date within 8 days. When I got home, I told my parents the news, and my mother was not happy. She warned me that I was making a mistake and needed to reconsider. Rethinking all this, my father was disappointed but stated it was my life and my choice. For the next few days, my friends helped me move things from my place, and I barely talked to my parents during that time. It was heartbreaking for my mother the most, and it hurt me seeing her upset as well. The first day in, I felt like our marriage was finally moving in the right direction, and I was finally feeling the happiness I had before she told me she wanted to divorce me. However, that happiness did not last long. A few weeks after moving in, we got invited out for some drinks, and when we got back home, I went through her phone to find conversations between her and a different ex, who we will call Alex. The messages went back to around the time she asked for a divorce, and this made my legs crumble. She was passed out on the bed, but I woke her up by splashing water on her and started screaming at her. She was confused as she was still tipsy, but I was very furious and yelled at her for over 2 to 3 hours. At one point, I demanded she leave. As she started to come back to her senses, she began swinging at me and chasing me around the apartment, actually punching me a few times and clawing at me. I'm not a violent person at all. I took the abuse and just locked myself in the room to keep her away from me. She started crying and begging me to forgive her, to the point she was on her knees, stating she would do anything to make up for it. We just began arguing and then slowly talking about the situation through the bedroom door. Eventually, we both calmed down and went to bed as it was 4 a.m. when this was happening. I didn't sleep, however, and when 7 a.m. came around, she woke up with only half the memory of what happened overnight. I yelled everything back to her again, but this time she was sober enough to understand what was going on and again pleaded for me to stay. She cried, stating she had nowhere else to go. At that moment, I hated her very much as I felt she stole me from my family, my friends, and my life. From what I saw in the messages, there was nothing that indicated they had done anything physical, at least from what was texted. However, there were conversations with clear intentions, such as her calling Alex and Alex suggesting they should make a video together, which I still considered cheating. After further arguing, I told her as long as she promised nothing happened between her and Alex, I better not see her talking to Alex ever again, or I would leave her. This time she pleaded that nothing ever happened. But during the same conversation, I asked if anything had happened between her and Tom. She paused and said no. It was at that moment that I wanted to investigate further. My gut told me this was only the beginning of what was to come, and that it would turn my world upside down. I'll explain more about this another day. Following my previous post, we are now in May 2021. When I asked if anything happened between her and Tom, she reluctantly responded no in a way that made me suspicious. To add a bit more context, when we first moved in April 2021, I was working at a call center about an hour away from our apartment from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. She was not working due to her job being closed, so I had to start doing Uber Eats, Postmates, and DoorDash, which would usually be 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. after work or whenever on my days off. Also, after the first night we moved in, I was given the cold shoulder from her every night. While I was at work, she would text me cute things, such as repeatedly saying she loved me and was waiting for me to come home to cuddle. However, once I got home, she would barely touch me or look at me, which led to my discovery about her and Alex. We're in June 2021, weeks after the incident. At this point, I'm keeping my distance from her, keeping my same work routine while also trying to finish college classes online. She was not working yet, but whenever I came home, it was never cleaned unless I did it. Around this time, she also adopted a mini golden doodle, but when we moved and I brought my Shih Tzu along with us, whom she loved dearly until our doodle came around, she also gave him the cold shoulder. For the next few months, it was the same routine. We tried to talk and go out on dates, but it always ended in silence. I tried to break the ice and see if we could work it out, but she never wanted to express herself. Little by little, I felt my love for her fading as I became numb to her treatment towards me. That was until October 2021 when she finally opened up to me. She apologized for her treatment towards me the past few months. We felt like we were both ready to leave the past behind and just focus on us now. It was us against the world. This felt more powerful when I caught COVID-19 the following month, where she cared for me the way a wife should. She ended up catching it from me once I recovered, and I returned the favor. After that, we started acting more like husband and wife. She finally started getting into my hobbies, such as video games, anime, art, and photography, even coming along with me during my late-night deliveries where we would vibe out to music, and she would help as well. We discovered new things about each other, went on dates, and honestly, it felt heartwarming being in her presence again. That spark between us was finally coming back, but I still had a secret grudge against her actions, as it was hard to move on from it. All was going well until a few days before Valentine's Day 2022, when I made another discovery. These past months, I still secretly went through her phone every now and then, but honestly never found anything between her and Alex besides what I already knew. However, I decided this time to take it a step further and look at messages between her and her best friend, who she would constantly send all the gossip to with long messages and screenshots. Going through the messages made my heart sink even more when I found more details about her and Tom. It turns out that Anna and Tom slept together a few days before she asked me for a divorce, and this was actually the true reason for her asking me for the divorce. As I kept reading, it turned out Anna and Tom had a conversation sometime in October 2021, I guess for some closure between them, which is why she finally decided to give us a shot. Oddly enough, I was not surprised this time. I woke her up from her nap and just straight up confronted her about what I just read in a surprisingly calm tone. She started crying and apologizing about it, and then I just stepped out and went for a drive to clear my mind. Many dark thoughts were going through my head, feeling like I had no one to turn to. For the next few days, I avoided her actions as much as possible. We still slept in the same bed, but there was no physical touch between us. On Valentine's Day morning, I got a couple of nudges from her in a cutesy tone, asking what I had planned for her today. Keep in mind, I was extremely exhausted from work and my deliveries from the whole week, and obviously, I was still heartbroken. She started crying, saying that I didn't plan anything out for her. Once I heard that, I jumped out of bed and began scolding her about how crazy she was to think I would do anything for her after what I just discovered. I yelled at her how she does not deserve anything from me and how our marriage is a total disaster. Now you may be wondering why I am even still here with her. Well, at this point in my life, I honestly did not have the energy. I was completely blank, a complete 180 from the person I used to be. I used to be creative, making drawings and paintings, doing photography and videography, and always looking forward to the next adventure. But I was hollow, feeling like there was no point to life. I know I'm stupid for this, but I just felt like it was easier to hide it from the world. We were already so deep into the marriage that it felt like there was no going back, because if I did, then what would I do? It was a dead end for me, and I blamed myself for relying on her to make me happy despite also making me the saddest. This doesn't mean I forgave her or anything. I just became more numb. So after this discovery, we again entered another period of keeping our distance. Around April 2022, she took a trip to Peru with her grandmother, and honestly, I was a little excited to have the place to myself for a chance. I told my friends the news, and they began showing up at my place frequently while she was away. Not knowing what I knew, they made me feel like my old self again, doing our old late-night shenanigans and activities like game nights, watching movies, or just hanging out. I loved the happiness I was getting back, even if it was for a moment. At the same time, the lease on our apartment was up by the end of May 2022, and I'd been speaking to my father about my possibilities. That same month, my mother went up to Chicago to spend time with family members for the remainder of the year, and my dad came up with the idea of letting me and Anna stay at their home while he followed her to Chicago. I agreed, but Anna wasn't so enthusiastic about it. However, I didn't need her approval. It was either here or having our rent twice the price from before for another year. I moved back in with my parents in June 2022. Anna was still in Peru, but was returning in the next few weeks. I finally felt at home again, moving back into my old room and seeing the layout that represented my spirited youth. I enjoyed my last few weeks of freedom, but I knew this happiness wasn't going to last forever as Anna finally returned from her trip from Peru. The next part of this story is where things really hit the fan, almost costing me my life. Update 2, so now it's June-July 2022. Anna and I are living at my parents' home. I started a new job in sales and was able to advance pretty quickly to a supervisor role within 2 to 3 months, which paid well enough to afford my dream car. As for my marriage, we had a steady relationship for the remainder of the year. We had our good and bad moments, but overall it was still a blank feeling I had. I didn't know what I felt towards Anna, whether it was anger, sadness, or depression. I just felt like the marriage was just existing for no reason. By the start of 2023, there was a bit of reconciliation between us, enough for us to start going out on dates again. We opened up more, but were still wondering where our marriage stood. Everything was seemingly okay until May 2023. Where my life flashed before my eyes. I invited my friends over for a hangout at my parents' place to watch a boxing match. I told Anna about it and stated how it would be only for a few hours and to expect some yelling as we get passionate about sports, and she was okay with it. As the fight kept going, we kept getting louder and louder to the point she was angrily texting me to keep the noise down. She would come out to grab snacks or use the bathroom only to keep slamming the door back to the room. After the fight, one of my friend's trucks had a dead battery, so I used my car to jump it. While we were jumping it, the 4 of us kept conversing for about another half hour. While we were talking, Anna demanded me through text to come. Inside repeatedly, to which I texted back that we were finishing up as I was just about to head inside. Anna stormed outside the house and headed to her car. I asked if everything was okay, but she had a very serious look on her face and angrily pushed me aside. Before leaving for Chicago, my dad had installed outdoor solar lights in the front yard. The way Anna's car was positioned, her only way out was through a grass area that had one of these lights. She revved up her car, and before she took off, I tried to stop her from running over the light and asked what was wrong. She paused for about 5 seconds, then stepped hard on the gas and almost ran me over. I jumped out of the way as fast as I could, getting grazed on my knee. She drove off fast, dragging the light beneath her car, scraping the road. I sat on the ground with a surprised look on my face, thinking about how she just almost ran me over. My friends helped me up and asked if I was okay. I just looked at them in shock, and they offered their help. I told them just to go home while I went back inside, shaken up from the moment. I kept calling Anna's phone to see why she did what she did. I went inside our room to find her phone on the ground, unlocked. I went through the phone for the first time in months and found out there were still secrets to uncover about Anna. It turns out Anna actually had a continuous affair for months, ranging from March 2021 to October 2021. I finally felt something in my heart and brain to do what needed to be done a long time ago. It's about 2 a.m., and I was still freaking out about this incident. I repeatedly called my sister, who lives down the road from me, about what just happened but got no response. Anna returned and tried to enter the home, but I managed to lock the door with an additional lock. I sneaked out to the back and drove over to my sister's house while hyperventilating as Anna pursued me. I got to my sister's house, knocking, but as Anna pulled up in the driveway, I began knocking frantically. My sister and her husband finally opened the door, which caused Anna to back off and drive away. I explained the situation to my sister and cried to her about what just happened, and finally opened up about how Anna had cheated on me in the past. It was a hard pill to swallow, but I was ready to finally let this marriage go. I asked her to accompany me back home to make sure Anna didn't try to hurt me again. When we got there, Anna was already packing up her belongings. I kept my distance for about 5 minutes, then asked her to give me back the rings and the keys. She already expected this, as she had them in her pocket and gave them to me. She grabbed her suitcase and took our golden doodle with her. My sister and I talked a bit longer, and then she finally went home. That night was a long one for me. I slept at about 6 a.m., only to be woken up at about 7 a.m. to knocking on my window from Anna. She had spent the remainder of the night in her car and asked if I could at least take the golden doodle back inside. As much as I wanted to, I ignored her knocking. This went on for about 30 minutes. Later on, I reached out and met up with her to talk about the situation. I finally told her about everything I knew and decided it was better for us to separate. She cried and begged me to let us work this out. But I was tired of the emotional and physical abuse all these years, the lies, the heartbreaks, everything. As toxic as it sounds, what followed afterwards for Anna was actually sad, but satisfying, as I felt like I was karma for everything she had put me through. I will sound like a jerk in the next part, but I believe I deserve genuine laughter for once. Anna moved back in with her mother, but not for long, as she did not get along with her stepfather and had too much pride to be living under her mother's roof again. She ended up finding her own place in September 2021, stating that if I ever wanted to make it work out, I was always welcome to move back in with her. My parents came back from Chicago about a week after we separated. A majority of the furniture in our bedroom was hers, as she made me throw out my items such as my bed and drawers and replace them with hers, as it looked more classy. Besides the bedroom, we had a couch, tables, kitchen appliances, etc., all boxed away in another room in the house. The day she told me she was coming to take her belongings, my father and I left everything out in the driveway, but did not bother to help them move anything into the truck. She brought along her mother, stepfather, her uncle, and her 2 aunts, who I would say are not all physically strong people. Her grandma was also there to mostly watch but help with little things to move. What took my father and me about 50 minutes to move and maneuver out of the house took them 3 to 4 hours to put in a truck. We peeped through the window having a few drinks and laughed about how they were struggling while they were all talking crap about me and my family. I don't know why they included my family, but then again, they've JJ/Tamara family who talk crap about everyone and everything. When Anna moved into her apartment, she was working a new job she got through her field of study, which paid well by the hour, but didn't get enough hours. She had too much pride to work a second job as she felt like this was below her. Because of this, she struggled to keep up with her rent, electricity, water bill, car payments, insurance, etc. She reached out to me a couple of times asking for money, but I refused to help her as I felt like her financial problems had nothing to do with me. Anna would try to gaslight me into giving her money, saying I shouldn't let her golden doodle suffer along with her, to which I replied that she should go ask her lover for money. I was surprised to learn later on that she told her mother the truth, and her mother took my side and stated she would not be giving her money either. The rest of her family still hated me for not wanting to work it out after she cheated, but their opinions didn't matter because none of them were married themselves. Months went by, and we were still legally married. Anna agreed to go half on the divorce fees, but did not have the money. During these discussions, she admitted she still had hoped for us to work it out, as she still had love for me and believed I still loved her back. Call me stupid, but I did love her back. But I just knew I couldn't keep playing this game anymore. Despite everything she's done to me, it was still hard for me to hate her, as this is someone I grew close to in high school, who helped me when I was at my lowest point in life and made me happier than anyone else ever could. Yet she still managed to break me and made me feel like I will never be good enough for anyone ever again. We still have each other on social media, and even though she claims to be struggling with money, she always seems to be out every weekend at the clubs. This usually ends up with her drunk texting or calling me, stating she was wrong for how she treated me. Whenever I post on my Instagram or Snapchat stories about being out late at night, she's usually the first to see my posts, usually within a minute. She acknowledges that I look happier without her. As of now, I wouldn't say happy, but I do feel like this is freedom. Since moving out, she's gotten into 3 car accidents just a few months apart. We're no longer on the same insurance together, but she still called me asking if I could financially help her, which I refused, and told her she was on her own now. I still had her on my phone plan a few months after, but decided to disconnect her line without letting her know. Once reconnected, she angrily texted me days later about how she lost her number and had to get a new phone because her current phone was still locked with my carrier, and she couldn't call to unlock it since I was the account holder. She called me a jerk, and I couldn't help but laugh about it. I have this ex-girlfriend that I ended things with on good terms. We were friends until Anna and I got married, where she forced me to cut off my friendship with her out of fear that my ex would try to get with me again. We started hanging out again, and when Anna found out, she swore that I only divorced her to get back with my ex. I had no interest in her after the breakup, only seeing her as a friend at this point, even after Anna and I separated. From what I heard from a mutual friend, she tried to get back with Alex, who now has a girlfriend and a child. She also tried again with Tom, who now has a girlfriend. Anna would sometimes reach out to me about how she's still behind on certain bills, barely eating, almost got evicted twice, and can't afford to care for the golden doodle. If I had to guess, she's most likely getting money from her grandmother. We would still text from time to time to figure out a court date or days where I still had to give her some leftover stuff from home. She would always say she would never find a guy like me, and how much she wishes we could try again, and regrets her actions. Part of this made me feel happy for Karma. The other part made me feel sad about how everything led up to this moment. Around March 2023, we went to court to finally file our divorce. While waiting for our turn, she stepped out and bawled her eyes out while I just sat there, not knowing what to think. After about 10 minutes, it was finally our turn, and we began signing away. Ever since then, we just now talk with a few texts once every 1 to 2 weeks, saying what we have left to say. As for myself, I was promoted to manager a month after we separated. I stayed in this position until November 2022, as I was overworked to the point of getting no sleep. I was able to find a better paying job, one that I continue to work for to this day. During the marriage, I gained weight from overeating to help cope with my depression. I've been going back to the gym but need to work on getting a routine. I have big plans with my friends for the summer and myself for later this year. It's now June 2023. I wouldn't say life is perfect, but whenever I'm having a bad day, I think about how Anna's life is basically falling apart now, Ever since we parted ways, it makes me feel like she deserves to feel what I felt for over 6 years. I'm an idiot for thinking this way about her, but at least my life is finally going in the right direction and hopefully continues that way, and she can see how happy I can be without her. Update. This is my last post about this. Just for a few clarifications, I had to cut this section out of part 4 to be able to post it. If there are any other questions, I can try to answer them as well. The history of Anna and me dates back to our high school days. There are more details about how Anna and I first met up to the point where we got married. Looking back on it, we always had a toxic relationship, but that's not to say it was all bad, as we had our great moments as well. As for how our boyfriend-girlfriend relationship went and why I married her, I'll explain that another time if necessary. I appreciate the feedback, both good and bad. Like I said before, I was a dumb fool who thought everything would magically work out. I don't know if I would call this outcome a win for me, but at least I can finally start over now. To the readers that think this is made up, I don't have the time to come up with a story like this. I'm posting my experience as a way for me to get this off my chest. I'm not the best when it comes to expressing myself in person, and Reddit probably isn't the best place to do it, but posting here with other people who had similar experiences made it easier for me. Thanks for still actually reading all these long posts. Sadly, this isn't my first rodeo. There's a relationship I had before this that broke me and made me who I am today. Sounds dramatic, but that's the best way to put it. I'm open to talking about it one day. Update today, I'm going to court to meet up with my wife, who we're calling Anna. She texted me Monday, June 26th, to remind me we have court today, June 30th. Yesterday she gave me one more reminder and also asked for a few things I still had left from her. I asked for some things as well. We still have each other on social media where we still see each other's stories. I don't snoop or anything. I just happen to see it when I'm seeing other stories. I suppose she has a sort of new boyfriend now, or at least is working up to it, as she's been posting text messages between her and the same guy. I don't think it's to get me jealous or anything, but knowing her, she likes the attention from other people as she did the same thing when her and I were becoming a thing. But I don't feel any jealousy or hate towards her. I'm actually relieved she's moving on. The way I see it, someone else is taking over my old problems. They have no idea what type of hell they're getting into. All I can say is good luck, they're going to need it. As for court, I actually feel excited about it. I can continue to move on with my life and she can finally be out of the picture. She stated that even after the divorce, we can still be friends, mostly because of the golden doodle we have together. Despite me loving that dog, I have to let this all go. After we finalize everything, I will block her on everything so I don't have to see or hear about her again. As for myself, I haven't tried to meet anyone new. I don't really have it in me to try again. The main thing holding me back is the trust issues and my own insecurities. Usually, when I've been in a relationship, it's always been the female that made the first move on me, including Anna. I should really change that, though, but for right now, my main focus is work and bills that I'm close to paying off. One of my friends is now training me at the gym. So far, I've lost 10 pounds. My friend group and I are going on our summer trip next week. We have multiple locations to drop by within our state. So yeah, life is good so far, and I'll try to update how the court went afterwards. Update. Sorry for the late update. I've been working overtime like crazy, but today I have time. On Friday, June 30th, we get to the courthouse and wait for our turn with a clerk. After about 3 minutes, we get called, and there's only one chair for us to sit down. I take the chair for myself, and even though I'm not looking at her, I can feel Anna staring at me hard. She says, "Can I at least sit down?" To which I respond, then grab a chair, and she just says, "Whatever," and stands up. We explain the reason for the divorce. We're not fighting for anything, just simply separating. A couple of times, the lady had to walk back and forth or type something in the computer. During those moments, she would say little remarks like she can't wait to get rid of me, that it was me who trapped her into a marriage, and that I never satisfied her, etc. Not to sound crappy, but I know she was saying most of that stuff to mask what she really felt. I know this because she followed up by saying she hopes I have fun with my ex, who we're still friends with. But like I said before, I have no interest in her, but Anna swears I'm in love with her. While we kept going back and forth, the clerk was trying so hard not to laugh. We pay the fee, and now we just have one more court date in 1 to 2 months. It was raining when we walked out, so we still discussed a few things. The main thing she asked was if I could watch our golden doodle in August while she goes on a trip out of the country. I said it's not possible for me, and she followed up that I'm a deadbeat dog dad and that I will never see him again and left. Here's the kicker. Yesterday, Anna asked if I could watch the golden doodle for today, to which I can't because I work today, even though it's the 4th of July and also today is her birthday. She won't be getting a happy birthday from me, though. Also, her family does not celebrate birthdays, especially her mother and stepfather because they're both JWs. Her only real option is her best friend, who's most likely going to do something with her boyfriend rather than Anna. So yeah, now I'm at work waiting 2 more days before vacation. Nothing really different going on from the last update.
Hello, it's a really interesting story. What do you think? Likes and subscribe to this channel on Instagram and Discord. Bye bye.